Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's video, we're going to be talking about fletchings and fletching orientation. I have an article that pairs with this video that will be linked in the description down below. And I just want to start by saying that all the information in this video is just my opinion on the situation and based on my testing, the repeatable results that I have gotten from my testing that has led me to this final ending point of how I think about fletchings and fletching orientation when setting up an arrow. I also want to note that regardless of which way your arrow clocks, if you want to fletch it to the left or you want to fletch it to the right, it doesn't really matter. So if you're of the mindset that if it clocks to the left, you should just fletch it to the left, then, stick with that mindset if that's what you want to do. Certainly do it. But in all my testing, all my arrows come off the bow to the left, and I still fletch with a right helical. Based on the fact that when I've done testing on this, if you are shooting a perfectly tuned arrow, that is coming out perfectly square and everything is tuned perfectly, I have never seen a difference in downrange accuracy out to 100 yards with broadheads or field tips going from a left or a right helical, either matching the natural spin or going against it. Now I understand the argument of, why fight it? But at the same time, if I am going to shoot a single bevel broadhead, most companies are offering a right bevel, single bevel broadhead, and so I'm gonna have to fletch to the right in that situation, so I'm gonna match it to the right anyways. So I tend to just fletch on a 2.5 degree right helical or right offset. But out of a perfectly tuned arrow, you're not gonna see a big difference. Where you are going to start seeing a difference between left and right helical out of a naturally left spinning arrow is out of a bow that is not perfectly tuned. And when I say perfectly tuned, I'm talking about shooting a bear shaft through paper at 15 to 20 yards and having a perfect bullet hole. When you get those kind of results, what's happening is the fletching's job is no longer to steer, it is just to correct. And in order for that arrow to correct, all it needs is some sort of rotation, whether it's to the right or to the left. The other thing that is very kind of uncommon knowledge or not really testable is if that arrow is naturally coming off to the left, is it coming off to the left with force, or is it just naturally coming off the string and it's just spinning that way? The PJ Riley from Lancaster Archery did a video with slow-mo comparing a left helical with a right helical and how the right helical took about maybe half a foot longer to start rotating, but when it did start rotating, it was rotating faster because of the helical degree. You're really boiling it down to fractions of a percentage as far as efficiencies and accuracies downrange that in all reality don't add up to much. So just fletch your arrows however you want to fletch them, whether that's to the left or to the right. But like I mentioned before, if you do want to match the natural spin of the arrow, feel free to do that, but I don't think you're gaining any performance or losing any performance by going with a right offset or a right helical. But all of this is only pertaining to a perfectly tuned arrow. If your bow and everything, arrow flight is king. If your arrow is not flying perfectly, then you're going to start seeing differences in these right and left helicals downrange, because the left helical is going to naturally correct a little bit faster than the right helical out of an improperly tuned bow. But flip side of the coin, you shouldn't be shooting an improperly tuned bow. So if that is the case, you should probably forget right versus left and, focus on, getting that arrow perfectly flying out of that bow to get the most performance. The other common thing is 4-fletch versus 3-fletch. I've always been a 3-fletch fan. In all my testing, 3-fletch has always performed better. 4-fletch, however, same argument. Out of a improperly tuned bow, the 4-fletch will hide a lot of those inconsistencies, and you will get better results with a 4-fletch over a 3-fletch out of an improperly tuned bow. Now, one thing that can happen, it's not always guaranteed, but with a lot of helical or a 4-fletch, you can get a parachuting effect out of the back end of your shaft. Because of so much air getting trapped and not being able to come out of the back side of the fletching, you'll get a parachuting effect or a knuckleball effect with a lot of helical or a 4-fletch sometimes, even out of a perfectly tuned arrow. Now, as far as broadhead controlling ability goes, it really boils down to how well tuned your bow is. If your bow is tuned really well, you can shoot pretty much any fletching. I prefer the Max Stealth. It's stiff enough that I get good correction out of it, but it's also soft enough that it's quiet downrange. So I really like the Max Stealth. I've been using the Max Stealth for like 7 years now, and I've just had no reason to switch, so I don't intend on switching anytime soon. So if you guys want a little bit more of a detailed description, the article, it will be linked down in the description down below. And if you guys like content like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I'll have a lot more content coming out in 2024. Kind of breaking down some things that you guys hear in the industry and my experience on them. Everything in these videos is solely just my experience from testing. You guys are more than welcome to do whatever you want to do with your setup. This is just how I recommend doing it, and it is not the gospel. There's a handful of different ways to get to the same endpoint. However, at the end of the day, the only thing, if you're going to take one piece of information out of this video, is that your arrow flight is king. If your arrow is not coming out and flying perfectly, it doesn't really matter, what you got on the back end, because you're gonna see issues downrange. So perfect arrow flight is first and foremost. After that, everything else kind of becomes personal preference of what you want to use. So that's just my opinion on the matter. If you guys want more information, there'll be the article down below. With that, that's the end of today's video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.